done in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And you would have groups, and there would be a bridge group, or you'd have the poker group, which was the rowdiest, would have the hard liquor, steaks. Mom did same menu every, maybe one Saturday night a month, steaks, baked potatoes, salad, and she said that's so that people wouldn't compete about doing a better casserole or something. And same liquor too, Jack Daniels and whatever that Dad would usually get. But they were the rowdiest, and the least rowdy were the bridge players. And then there was a church group that they were probably the least rowdy. Their most rowdy nights were sing along with Mitch.
Yeah.
Which Mom hated. Mom, again, back to the genes. She didn't have she was a good musician. I was about 7 years old, and I heard this beautiful, I don't know, Chopin sonata coming from downstairs in our recreation room. I ran in, and there's Mom playing the piano. And she very shyly shuts it. I said, "What was that?" She said, "Oh, nothing." And I never heard her again.
Wow.
Never. And then singing. Dad would sing embarrassingly loud in church, and Mom, and I was, 5, 6. And I would say, "Mom, why aren't you singing?" She said, "Oh, I like to listen." She had some musical genes, but didn't like the idea of doing things in public.
Any stories, Max?
Well, this goes back to the genes carrying over to, us and you. But most of the time that I spent with Grandma was driving either to Florida or Knoxville, and the stories she would say, and Mom would look at me and she'd roll her eyes sometimes because we heard the stories over and over. And I'd kind of sit there and laugh because when we get home and Mom would be talking in the car, I'd just roll my eyes. And I'm like, oh my God, it's just a matter of time until I'm the same way. No, it's totally true. And she would tell me that I had to come to keep her sane. And I'm like, oh my God, you're driving me nuts. So it's kind of a...
Your osmosis is
fun.
insanity.
Oh, gosh. Well, that's really true, because for a day or two after I'd come home from staying with Mother, I'd be sitting in the car with Daniel, and I'd be sitting there like that. Don't talk, don't talk. You are your mother. Don't talk.
Okay. I've been sitting here the whole time thinking, well, I should share something about Thyra too, because, I really did only get to know her as an older person, and I always loved listening to her stories because I was so impressed with somebody that could remember stuff. Because, Katie would always ask me to tell stories, and I was trying to think, well, yeah, I know I did fun stuff. I know good things happened, but, it was to be on demand and tell stories. Things sometimes would come to mind, but Thyra, I guess my best memories of Thyra was when I went with Carolyn to Knoxville. When was that? That was what, 4 years ago?
Yeah, about four
It was after
years
your-
ago for around
Yeah.
Christmas to take her to Florida.
Right, I went for the drive. Megan had put in her time. And, all these years I've been listening to Carolyn's stories about Knoxville and her mother in Australia, and I always loved it because, my parents were gone, and I'm not a very good storyteller myself, so, I went to Florida to give Megan a break. I went to Knoxville. I flew to Knoxville. I got to visit Dana. I got to go to a UT basketball game. Unfortunately, it was the only game they lost. And I went with Carolyn in the car, the Continental, and drove Thyra to Florida. And so it was great because I got to hear all the stories that Carolyn rolled her eyes about, but I'd never heard them before. So I was very impressed with how well Thyra could remember everything that they ate that night and who was there and what they wore, and you know, I just I really enjoyed her stories and was ready to hear them all, and so it was great. But one of the things that really stood, I remember her telling me, you know, Thyra was definitely progressive in many ways, but she was kind of apolitical, and I didn't realize that she had never become a citizen of the United States and never voted. Right? I mean, that was one of the things that she shared with us when we were driving to Florida, and that she was still an Australian citizen, and even though she married Bill and could have become a United States citizen, she never did. So I thought that was...
Yeah, that's kind of a mystery. I don't know that we ever
I think,
got a full answer to why that was the case.
I think she really did think about going back, because Dad would have moved back to Australia.
Mhm.
And after he retired, he was really interested in moving back there. And I think that she thought if she retained her citizenship, that they would be able to go back and live more easily.
Probably. And she didn't repeat her stories very much, you know, that we could, not that she did
Yeah.
talk in those long trips. And, hardly anything was repeated from, oh, you've already told me that. Well, I know that.
So they were all new to you. So you didn't hear the same stories over again?
No,
They were all different ones?
they were pretty much new. But I would get kind of numb. I mean, I enjoyed the trip.
Now the truth comes. Now, I served the same purpose as you, Megan. I would just be sort of invited along so that he wouldn't go crazy and numb.
Right.
Stay
Oh
with
my
him.
gosh.
Oh, what was it? Will
Okay,
watched his...
This is your first, or your, I think your first
It was the
trip
very
out.
first time I met Thyra and Bill too.
And you all remember the context that this is a 18-hour drive from Knoxville to Florida, and Dad still insisted he was perfectly okay driving. But Carolyn and Mom knew that was not the case. And Dad could not turn his head far enough to look in the side and didn't mind changing lanes at 50 miles an hour on the freeway. And so, and that was, we were,
That's how he
Slam on the brakes.
so, yeah, so Carolyn and I insisted on driving them in the first trip, and I was a little anxious about certain things, and working on my tolerance of Mom and Dad and whatever. Dad had a backache, and Mom had a backache. Both of them were kind of had some sort of ailment, and so we got everything ready to go. And the night before, or the morning that we started to go, I got up to put my contact lenses in, and I had 2 bottles that looked exactly the same, and one bottle was camera lens cleaning fluid, and the other was contact lens wetting solution. And in my blindness, took my lens out, cleaned my lens, both of them, with some sort of toxic alcohol. Stuck them in my eyes
Oh my God.
and started screaming in pain. And
Terrible.
took them out, and in my eyes, I ended up calling the doctor something or other. I couldn't flush out. I could not for, I don't know, maybe it may have been 2 days. I had to have my eyes covered. I could not, no light at all could so I was not able to drive, and we couldn't stay longer. We couldn't wait longer because we had to leave for something.
Yeah, we had tickets out of Tampa just days later.
And so Angelina offered to drive, which sounded like you
Well,
could
first
see.
of all, Bill offered to drive.
Oh,
No, thank you.
We had to fight it.
yeah. And so Angelina did a great job of driving in thunderstorms. Southern heavy rain.
Yeah. And then every time we'd pull over anywhere, Bill would say, "Well, I'll drive now." And I go, "No, I'm good."
And in the back, I started with
He told me that the road was really dangerous, you know, so I wasn't gonna do that. So he's in the back going, and everybody's moaning. It was kind of like a funny movie. I was thinking, this is a really bizarre family.
And then we finally get down there the next day. Angelina's driven for the full 18 hours, and traffic's bad going from whatever that is, I-75 across to Largo, that last horrible stretch of driving for 45 minutes, and stop and run Mall City to get to the condominium. It's about 6 o'clock, and we've been driving maybe 10 hours. And
That's when you all started arguing about which way I should turn, and you couldn't see.
Mom,
I've never
Mom
been
did
there.
pretty well. But what I was thinking of was Dad said, "Angelina, go this way." Dad wanted us to go to the beach to see the sunset.
Right.
And
Oh,
Mom
yeah.
said, tis, Bill, Angelina's been driving for 18 hours. So we had to redirect Angelina to not go down to the beach. But Dad loved the sunsets and wanted us to see it first thing when we got there. Anyhow, that was quite a trip. And both of them were good storytellers, so it was fun
It was actually a lot of fun.
yeah.
It was great.
Well, ours was interesting too, because Thyra liked to talk, Carolyn likes to talk, and I'm known to talk a little myself. So, you know, here are the three of us, I think we were in the front seat, weren't we? Didn't you let me drive some?
Yeah.
I think so. We
Yeah,
traded
sure.
off driving, and Thyra was in the back talking and telling us stories. And, you know, it was never silent. I don't think ever.
No.
You know, it was like we just talk.
It
And
was
of course,
only silent with just Mom and me.